name is Shane Carpenter. As one of Mantle's most elite soldiers, I was trained to handle anything, built to fight the good fight.
Administering.
Good fight. Yeah, that's what I thought until the day I broke away from Mantle. Their lies, their nectar. That day, I changed sides. Today I am reborn. Now it's time to set things right.
The only game that I've played so far at E3 has been Super Mario Galaxy. And it's the one game that they didn't really talk about at all at the Nintendo's conference, and you see the video, and the video is excellent.
I played it a little last year, and I really enjoyed it, but this year, like, playing more of it, it's come together really well, and I feel like that one game has justified my coming all this way. I spent 20 minutes with it, and that's the week right there for me.
I didn't play it last E3, and I kind of didn't understand how... It seemed like it would be really disorienting walking around the planets and how the controls and the Wii stuff, it just seemed weird to me, but like 10 seconds after I had it, it just like, it felt really good, and I was doing the spins and jumping around, like the controls all came back.
But it's weird because you guys are talking so highly of this, and like my time playing it today I was of two minds about this game. Part of me was like, I'm really happy to be playing a new Mario game, and it controls great, and it's like I'm playing new levels of Mario Sunshine. And that's all I kept thinking was like, much like Mario Sunshine.
It's really not like Mario Sunshine at all. Mario Sunshine took Mario away from the foundation of what the series is about, which is like jumping around and stuff, and focused so much on the jetpack and squirting things.
There were those, the bonus, like the pure platforming levels of Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, but those were just a bonus stage. Mario Galaxy is about platforming.
It is.
The core of the game is running and jumping and stomping on things.
I still can't get over the level design. Like, it's interesting and
level
it's
design
different.
is great. The level design, I think, is what's going to give this game longevity, because every single planetoid you go to, it feels different. Sometimes you're on a little ball that's barely even bigger than Mario. So, like, every time you run, you're spinning around really fast.
Maybe all the levels I've played are smallish.
I don't know, but then there's like the levels. Well, there's the level that you played with the bee.
That was more of a regular level.
The B level, and we were talking about, like, it's totally like a little like Super Mario Brothers 3 like throwback. It's cool. It's fun too. Like playing as the bee.
See, but I saw that today in the video. I'm like, oh, awesome, as Soup. But then when I'm actually doing it, you really can't do anything as the bee.
Well,
and
you
like,
just fly.
And the whole level is like, avoiding water, because when you get hit water, when you get by water, the bee suit goes away, and there's always another bee suit around you. So it's just avoiding water. And I was like, well, it's not really like the fun of getting a suit with all these powers. It's just like an obstacle.
It looks like Super Mario Brothers Sunshine. It has it felt like that in some ways, but to me it did feel more like Super Mario 64 was. It didn't have the complexity of Mario Sunshine. It had like the really simple like fun controls, and like I only played one level. It was the B level, but it had like these really clear objectives to the end of the level, more like Mario 64.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's a really good game. It's great control. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's cute. The graphics are pretty good for a Wii game actually. But part of me, like, I just wanted grander scale. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like the entire galaxy is a pretty big scale. I think you need to play some more levels because the one I played after you left takes place on things that aren't actually spherical. They're like flat discs, the little squares. There's a pirate ship. And a lot of those are interconnected by those magnetic loops that you have to use the Wii remote to grip onto.
How I used the Wii remote.
There's a bunch of these really complex mazes that you have to go around navigating that thing with. And if you screw up, then you like drift off into space and die.
You played a whole bunch of Metroid Prime. Like nobody else got to play it, but there was like a special play session where you got to play like an hour of it, basically.
Well, I think they were showing a little bit of it, but yeah, I played an hour of it.
How did the thing they were touting where you like anchor? It's less the Z targeting and more like anchoring onto somebody because you can still shoot around.
Yeah, the whole control scheme is really different now. It feels a lot more like a traditional console first-person shooter, and it really changes the dynamic of Metroid Prime.
Does it feel like Hunters, the DS game?
It does feel a lot like Hunters, not only because it's faster and more fluid and more actiony, but also because apparently the game is broken into individual planets that you visit one at a time.
Right.
So it loses that Metroid like immensity where everything is interconnected and you're finding.
They ran out of like excuses for Samus to crash land and lose all her powers.
There's no contrived explanation for why she doesn't have stuff. She just goes in and she doesn't have her stuff. She has the grappling beam, and that's basically it. And actually, it's really surprising to me, but the game feels a lot like Halo now. Like,
so
not
thing
in
or a bad thing.
I don't know. It's like some of the good things about Halo, like the very first level, you go into the flagship, you meet like this general and some other bounty hunters, and then the space pirates attack, and you're escaping from the flagship to get to your ship, and it's totally like the Pillar of Autumn level, like totally from the very beginning of Halo. I'm not entirely sold on it. Like I don't know if it's really going to be what we expect from a Metroid game, but on the other hand, the Metroid Prime games did get kind of boring. The level design is not what I expect from Metroid again. Instead of being kind of like interconnected and you kind of get the impression that there's these branches that you can't explore yet, but you need to come back with another power. It's pretty much just a straight shot.
Well, one thing they did with Echoes...
It's very repetitive also. Like it kind of reminds me, like I said, of Halo, where you have like this copy and paste level design. And maybe they just chose a bad part of the game to show me, but at the same time, I kind of do have some qualms about that.
Shane, you're now like Wii Fit. Did you lose some pounds? Do some yoga?
It's interesting.
I did the yoga.
Yeah, he did the yoga actually. He did the
balancing.
He did like
on
downward dog.
Apparently, if you want to do yoga, you shouldn't wear baggy jeans. That's what I discovered today.
Yeah, he had to pull his pants up. When you stand on this big thing, which is a lot bigger than you think it is, and it requires 4 batteries, by the way. But like you realize something. It's all about shifting your weight. That's the whole plot of this game.
This is the first thing they showed was just a girl standing on it and like just shifting her weight the other way. And I'm like, okay,
Well, that's the first one.
that's
That's
fun.
the first one you should do. It's the first one I did, and then like that skill, that's the skill, and like that you move that to all the different 40 games. There were like 13 on display today. You know,
That many games? 40?
40 different activities. But yeah, they're all based on different variations of that. I mean, like we saw some like the push-ups. Obviously, that's not based on that exactly. But all the ones today, there were different balancing ones. There was like hula hooping.
Was the calibration like on stage? It was kind of spazzy, and they kept saying like, "Oh, it's not really like that." Was it like that?
It did not malfunction like that. Like when I was playing it, like you're supposed to like keep your weight within a certain thing. It actually, you could tell as you're moving. It was obvious the feedback of what you're supposed to be doing with your body.
And that thing where you had to stay centered or whatever, it was easier.
It worked. It worked as advertised.
Like my thing with this game is like, it's a great idea. It's gonna sell tons. Like Good Morning America is gonna love it. It's definitely gonna play to the Wii audience. But like, I mean, is it something like that? Is it gonna be like the Power Pad? Like, is anybody gonna care about it?
I think this idea basically came from Nintendo looking at people creating Wii Sports fitness routines, and they said, why don't we sell this to people? Why don't we make money off of what they're doing? Like this emergent gameplay from Wii Sports, if you can call it that. I mean, it's this kind of like full motion, full body video gaming that
But I mean,
really the Wii doesn't even deliver with the normal controller.
But do you think like people like, because like you and me and I think you, Jeremy, like Wii Sports, but I still don't even see myself like, oh, I'm gonna like exercise every day on this pad thing at home, like in front of the TV.
I did find it weirdly addictive because it's so simple, but then when it gets harder, you fail, and then you're like, well, I can do that. I can stand on one leg, and like that made me want to come back to it a bit.
And I think its success is going to be really contingent on the quality of the mini games. I think if they have a lot of really, really cool mini games, like the hula hoop, not so cool.
The best
but the
one,
ski jump, that was kind of cool.
Ski jump's pretty good. The best one is actually the one where
The Marble
there's
Madness
balls.
one,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
Marble Madness, and you're tilting the field with your body, and you're trying to get these balls in these holes. By the 6th or 7th one, it got really hard.
Yeah, it's like a real video game. I mean, that
That
one
one,
mini
right,
game
right,
was.
right.
And if they
That's
can do more of those, then I think it'll have some real legs
But
for normal games.
It's definitely aimed at multiple audiences. Like in that thing, some of the games look really kiddie, like the soccer bopping one. Other ones are very like mature, aimed at women with like these like nodule style paintings of women
yeah.
and shit. Like it's for kids and moms, kind of.
The other game that you got to play today that I'm really jealous of, hopefully I'll get to play more of though, is LittleBigPlanet.
Yeah.
And now they let you, like we played it before,
Well,
but now they're letting you like mess around with
The last time I played it, you just got to play through the level that you saw them make at GDC. That was fun, but today you could actually go in and just like free range, play whatever you want, put things, delete things, create giant monstrosities, create a car. You take the different pieces, you put them all together, and suddenly it's like moving.
And they show in the video, they show them make a tank, and how quickly they make these kind of complicated
Oh, yeah.
things, and they do it by two tools, like one that takes stuff away, and then the other one is how they create the tank. Like they create a moving tank that uses real physics. They have just circles, and then it uses those as the wheels. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit! Like they made that in like
Well, and
10
the
seconds.
physics are cool. Like if you want to place any object, you pick the thing, it's suddenly there, and you can like make as many as you want. So you say there's like 16 blocks, you make 32 blocks, they all fall on the level with physics, and everything's just falling, and everybody can jump around and throw them, and yeah, it's just like an instant fun playground.
Are you really gonna actually make levels with it? Are people actually gonna really make levels, or is it gonna be like 10 people that are really hardcore, like RPG Maker? They're gonna make levels.
The way the game is being released is it's going to be a beta this fall that's like free and with a limited set, but people can create their own items. Like when you make an object that actually works, you can like give that to other people and they can use it then. And so when the game comes out next summer in retail form, it's going to have all these things that people created. And like the producer is saying that they don't even know what's going to happen with this game. It's like a slate, and they're letting people like evolve it as it happens.
I could tell when I saw them make that tank, I could tell like there's stuff that these guys don't even know that's possible in their engine, in their game. Like maybe you could come up with some weird way of making like an RPG basically, like where you kill something and you get an item that then lets you open up some other, like a Zelda, even Metroid.
They were even saying, like, I was like, well, in Mario World, there's multiple exits. And so if you're making a level, maybe you could have multiple exits that are harder to get to. And if you get to this hard exit, you get a prize of some item you made. So you can do those kind of things and like really make more of a platformer than you even thought possible.
So it's weird kind of seeing Halo 3 after, like, we just got back from Bungie because we were working on our EGM cover story, and then they showed a little bit more of the levels that we didn't get to see. And it just kind of reminded me, like, it was 3 weeks ago since I last saw the game, and I'm like, you know what, that game is really good looking. It's like a subtle beauty.
Yeah.
It's not in your face. Like when you see Gears of War PC, I'm like, wow, that game looks good. And even like Unreal Tournament 3 looks really good. But Halo 3 is like, if you start to watch it, you're like, yeah, that's
That's exactly it.
game.
You need to, and this is why the trailer at the press conference didn't work, because you need to sit and sort of soak Halo in a little bit to notice
Yeah.
all the subtlety. Like in the Sandtrap thing, in the multiplayer thing they showed us, there's a lot of dust kicked up in the air and it gives everything a slightly hazy feel. But if you see a quick flash of it, you can't see it. And then the stuff in the jungle on Sierra 117, there's like the light coming through the leaves, and everything in the jungle is casting a shadow on the ground.
Halo Wars.
Twitter.
If you put those outfits on her, I'm gonna have fun with it.
I'll come over there and
I know I'm probably alone on this one, but I mean, I really need that game to come out on a PC. I'm ready to stage a campaign petition just to get that thing.
You're that excited about it?
I'm really looking forward to it. It looks really cool. You know, I gotta say, after playing CNC3 on the 360, I was. It's so hard to focus.
He's gonna kick your ass.
We've seen it, and we realized this is something that could work on PC. It's not so console-oriented that you couldn't take it and put it over there.
I think the reason that they're focusing on it now is they've obviously spent so much time trying to refine the controls, so it doesn't have the CNC3 squeeze 3 buttons to get things done. Everything's context sensitive. Everything is like you always. I mean, there's a lot of the things they learn. Obviously, you always tap left to go back to the base. You know, everything to do with selecting units is always on A. Attack is always on X.
RTS fans aren't going to be that excited about Halo Wars. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't seen
Halo
anything.
fans.
Halo fans will love it because it's like when you first meet up with the grunts and they're shooting the needlers, it sounds just like the needlers from the shots coming out to when it sticks to you and then the crystals are exploding.
And let's face it, this game is not really for RTS fans. It
Yeah,
is for Halo fans,
well,
and there's a lot more of them.
I think RTS fans would be into it. Look at a game like it's like Company of Heroes. That's not your typical RTS.
I think
Same with World in
It's
Conflict.
a lot like Company Heroes because I mean, they only showed us like a small skirmish with a couple of warthogs and then
Right.
like a larger war when the Scarab came in. But
Which
it
was
was
awesome.
that was
Oh, yeah.
really awesome. It was like smaller, tighter skirmishes where you can see everything that's going on. I mean, the fight with the Scarab, that thing comes in out of the thing in the ground, and there's maybe 20 Covenant troops like holding things down. I mean, it wasn't a lot of units.
That was more than that.
You
It was
think?
probably 40 or so. Because it was ground troops, banshees flying
Of course,
overhead,
yeah, there was- yeah, there were
ghosts
banshees
coming
as well.
in. It's funny because you're talking to developers and they'll dance around everything and they will not confirm you can play at least 2 playable sides, human and Covenant. But
You get to play that Little Shop of Horrors Hive Mind.
I hope so. But when you ask them like, can you play as a Scarab? They smile and said, yeah, it is a controllable, movable unit. So that does indirectly confirm that you can play as the Covenant.
Small squad-based tactics are becoming really popular now amongst the RTS set. So.
I mean, a lot of people came away from the Sony conference or the Microsoft conference, and they thought Assassins didn't look as good as it did a year ago, or at least it didn't look a year better. And then the next day, like yesterday, I played it, and I think visually, I mean, I'm still excited about it. I think the style is great. The whole concept is really good, but I'm kind of confused by the control scheme because you have to hold down buttons to do a lot of things. So in order to run, you have to hold down 2 separate buttons. If you just use the analog stick, you're just walking everywhere. To climb on buildings and like bounce around on the tops of them and run and do all that crazy stuff, you're always holding down like different combinations of buttons and stuff. So it's pretty complex for someone who's used to like typical third-person games. So I'm kind of wondering like just how that's going to work for them.
That's weird because the movement now is to simplify everything. You know, like we just played Stranglehold, and it's just like it's one button to do any fancy move, and you can even
A lot of people are
automate.
doing that. I saw Fable 2 yesterday, and that's his whole thing again as well. All combat on one button.
Yeah.
You know?
Combos are like all context sensitive, so you see like a little icon in the HUD that says like, okay, if you hit now, you're gonna do a grab, or if you hit now, you're gonna do one of your special moves or parry or something like that. I mean,
I think why people aren't that excited about Assassin's Creed is everything we've seen so far looks like it's from the same block in the city. It all.
well, and they showed a whole new city here, which is Jerusalem, but it still looks kind of similar to what
it
they've
looks
shown
the
before.
Same. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's the same color scheme, same architecture.
So does the whole thing take place in the Middle East? I mean, is there?
There's 3 cities, yeah, and they're all kind of in the same area.
Yeah, they're in a desert. What are you gonna do?
There wasn't much weight to the combat, or it didn't seem like there was much substance. It seemed very sort of like, oh, get out of the way. You know, it seemed very sort of a very light touch on everything.
It seems like one of those things, like once you get really good at it, once you're 10 hours in and you really understand how you're doing it and you kind of have a feel for it, you can just do it automatically, it's going to be really smooth and cool and all that, but it just takes a while to get there. And I think the whole game is kind of like that. Like, for someone who's seen all the trailers, or at least the official Ubisoft ones, where everything kind of moves around really smoothly and it's like the silkiest game ever, it can be if you totally know what you're doing and you go exactly the right way. But if you just try to run around or, you know, just drop right in and see what you can do, you're going to be bumping into people all the time. It's going to be very jerky until you kind of understand how it all works. And I think that's going to take a lot longer than most games.
It doesn't look that interesting to me combat-wise. Like, what I like is the demo where they're showing like a bad guy running through the city. This felt like an action movie to me because you're like, okay, whether you want to run through the crowd and through all the people to get to the guy, or do you want to like climb up the buildings and run across different beams to get to him and take shortcuts. So it felt like a real on-foot chase scene. So I think that's part, if like, you know, if you could get the controls really smooth and you're running around like you are in Prince of Persia, it could be really awesome.
Stuff like that's awesome because you actually can take different routes and it still works. Like, you don't have to go exactly where he is. It's not like Spider-Man where if you make like one wrong turn, you're screwed. You know, it really does work pretty well. And then when you actually find the guy and you're able to jump on him and stuff, they're really, those moments are just like amazing. Like, they show what this game could be if it irons out perfectly.
So you saw Unreal 3. Did you see the PC version or PS3?
I saw both. Actually, it was kind of cool. They had both running side by side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they actually showed, like, I mean, obviously it scales up, it looks a whole lot prettier on the PC, but, I mean, they were showing, like, a deathmatch level called Sanctuary, and it was, like, it looks so similar that you're just like, wow, that's you can't argue with that. Also for the PS3 version, they're using a 6-axis controller, so like if you're controlling one of the hoverboards, you tilt it and you're kind of pulling
I've never seen a PS3 6-axis work for anything. Like,
yeah, I know.
That's worth it. You know, like controlling anytime they say you can control vehicles with this thing, I'm like, can I use the analog sticks?
Exactly. Unreal 3 ships with the toolset editor, so modders on the PC can make their mods, levels, total conversions, whatever. But you could take them, upload them to something, I don't know, maybe like, you know, a USB flash drive, and put those mods on the PS3 game.
Is that how they're going to distribute it, though?
They're still kind of working it out. Like, there's a lot of kinks and logistics being, in fact, you know, put together right now. But total conversions, all the crazy stuff that people are doing on the PC, is technically there and possible for PS3 gamers to.
If you're a PlayStation 3 player and you want to make your own maps, because you can't do it on a PS3,
right?
Like, do you have to buy the PC version as well?
Well, Epic has a really good track record of providing a lot of stuff out there for free. I mean, I think
yes is the answer.
So yes.
But it is a beautiful game. It's like kind of cool to see, like, because you kind of forget, like, you know, we're multi-console, we play stuff on every system, and you kind of forget the PlayStation 3 doesn't have that looker of a shooter like Xbox 360 does with Gears of War and now Halo 3. And Unreal Tournament 3, I think, is going to be that game because it's so detailed. The buildings are so ornate, and it's just a really, really good
It's not
looking
even
game.
the buildings. I mean, like the weapons have been like the weapons aren't changing that much if you've played the previous UT games, but they've been perfected. They look and feel just right. The flak cannons, the shock rifles, the link guns. It all just, it's like some of the best design weapons I've ever used. They showed off 2 new vehicles for the Necro side that just show off how creative the vehicles are in the game. There's one called I think it's called the Scavenger, and it's like, imagine like this like force-fielded ball that you get into, and it has these tentacles that sprout out, and you can like clamber all around the environment, but you can retract those, and you're like, it's like Marble Madness on crack, and you can just bounce around and like roll over people, and then tentacles come out and grab people and throw them around and stuff. The other thing is called the Stealth Bender. It's basically it's an invisible support truck. So it's shielded, so when it's immobile you can't see it, but it also deposits mines and stuff. So spider bot mines that'll like proximity based. So if you go near it, they'll sprout up and start chasing you down. The other thing that's kind of cool is this thing called the slow volume. Basically, it's kind of like it creates this kind of basically it's almost like a gelatin shield. Like anything that passes through it slows down. So people, vehicles, projectiles.
It's like the old D&D monster, the
gelatinous
gelatinous
cube. Yeah, I don't know anything about that D6.
Nerd,
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah. Well, you said the PS3 doesn't have a looker of a shooter, but I think Killzone 2 looks better.
Well, that's a good point. Like, I didn't get to see. I only saw the trailer. I didn't get to see the actual demo. wish they didn't show that target video and try to pull that off as like, this is what the game's gonna look like, and then yeah, they just kept insisting that's what the game's gonna look like. We're gonna get really close.
It's pretty close.
Is it really? I mean, like the demo was
it's very close.
I haven't seen it yet myself. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I don't.
It's very.
It's not very close because like Game Videos did a side-by-side comparison, and then if you go by memory, I did the same thing. Like based on memory, I'm like, that's pretty close to that old CG Target video. But then when I look at that side-by-side comparison, I'm like, no, not really.
But just purely objectively, it's pretty fucking good looking.
Yeah, it is. I
mean, we're getting really picky here, saying, "Oh, the Target video, it didn't do all that stuff." But it's like we haven't seen anything like that. I mean, Gears is the closest thing to that in terms of constructing that kind of drama in an environment. And I mean, when they were showing it the first time, I thought they were just playing through a video of it, but the guy was there playing it, and like they were stopping stuff and showing it, and the smoke and the destructible geometry, and there's a lot of stuff that things like games like Black had done before with the weapons and the way stuff was interacting with the environment, and it was just so much more subtle stuff going on than I've seen in a shooter before.
The only gigantic question I'd have to pose is, I mean, has Guerrilla Games really proven themselves to like deliver on this yet?
Yeah, Killzone was just kind of flat. It's like I like the setting and the story.
The universe seems so rich, and there's so many cool things they can do with it, and the promise is there. I want to see them succeed.
And the Hellgast, I mean, they're one of the most iconic bad guys that someone's come up, certainly in a shooter for a long time. I mean, just when you see the guys piling in through, when they're coming through the environment and you can see the eyes through the dark. I mean, it works really, really well. And I just hope that, I mean, even at this stage, it's a lot like Call of Duty Medal of Honor, where it looks like it's essentially funneling you through a tunnel of gameplay with the illusion of being very free. But I mean, COD4's doing that as well.
Oh yeah.
See, that's the thing. I think a lot of people want to compare Killzone to like Gears or Halo, but I think it's more comparable to something like Call of Duty. I think stylistically, maybe not exactly, but just like the gameplay style and what you're doing, it seems more in that vein.
Yeah, definitely.